We are live once again. Got a very special lady joining us tonight, Laletha Cunningham. And so I want to bring her in. How you doing, Laletha?
Doing great. What about yourself?
I'm doing good. So how's it going with you today?
Pretty good. It's been a good day.
No complaints, huh?
No complaints.
It don't help, does
Doesn't help.
it? Well, let's get this party started and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you do.
Okay. I am with Affinis Hospice in Noonan. Basically, I am by profession a chaplain. And with Affinis Hospice, I am chaplain / community care liaison. Basically, what I do is I go out into the community and I educate people about our hospice services. Been a lot of just misunderstood information about hospice in the past. And so we want to get the word out about what hospice is and what we do.
Awesome. And hey, I want to go ahead and acknowledge Kim Porter said, "Hey, girl."
Hello, Kim.
So, how long have you been involved in hospice?
I have been with hospice for a year and a month so far, and I love it.
Okay. So, what is and when is someone considered hospice care? Because speaking from a little bit of a naive side, when you think of hospice, that's not necessarily all the time like last few days to live, is it?
It's not.
Okay.
Basically, what we do when a person really needs hospice is when they've been hospitalized, been back and forth to the emergency room several times within 6 months. When they're making frequent calls to the physician, when there's the frequency of pain, and they've started a new medication. Also,
Okay.
if they've fallen in the last 6 months several times, that's maybe a sign. And when they're starting to feel fatigue, and shortness of breath, reoccurrent infections and wounds, and that's
Okay.
what you want to look at. And also, when they're starting to need assistance with dressing, bathing, eating, getting out of bed, and walking, that's when you want to really start to just pay attention to that.
Okay. So really hospice could be a long-term care. You're kind of
It
like
could be.
going in as a like assisted nurse type thing to help people take care of those things. Does that include like, do you do the things like, bathing, dressing, all that?
We do that. We have CNAs that goes in for our basically our almost near end of life. They're on watch, so we have our CNAs go in 5 days a week to make sure
Okay.
that they're dressed. But other than that, on a normal basis, it would be 3 days a week that they go in to bathe and make sure that their hygiene is taken care of.
Okay.
hmm
So what all do you when you said you're a chaplain, do you obviously offer that
We offer
counsel with people?
pastoral services. Yes.
Okay.
Um, Normally, my role now is community care liaison because we do have a chaplain. But
Okay.
when our chaplain, he's in the military, so right now he's gone for a month. So when
Mm.
he's out in the field for a month, I do a little bit of his work and I do my work. So I have to spread it out. So basically, he has to make some calls. He makes house calls for our in-home patients, and then for our facility patients, he goes to the facilities as well. It's
Okay.
wherever he's needed.
Okay. So who qualifies for hospice care? I know you touched on some of the I guess you'd say symptoms or whatever, but who qualifies for it?
All patients with a qualifying hospice diagnosis under the Medicare guidelines.
Okay.
That's who qualifies.
And who does the diagnosis? Is it a doctor? Do you guys assess them at your company as well?
What most of the time their doctor will refer, and it will come to that point where he will have that that conversation with them about um where they're going in the future, where their illness is heading. And at
Hmm.
that point, he will actually send over what we would do. He will send a referral to us, and then we will basically request all of their medical records and the orders from him. And that's
Okay.
when we go ahead and go out, educate the family, talk to the family and the patients about our hospice services and what will take place from there.
Okay. And what will hospice offer and not offer?
That's a good question, right?
Do some people expect more than, or maybe see it as something it's not?
Well, we offer home care, respite care, continuous care, and inpatient care. Um, what we do is we don't we will not cover for room and board fees for senior
Okay.
communities. So they
Mhm.
will have to be in one of the see, well, basically in one of our home non-medical facility, which includes long care sitting, such as assisted living and memory care. So they would have to be in one of those, but we do not cover the fees for room and board for senior communities.
Okay.
That's
And explain a little bit more about what respite is.
Respite is basically where, say for instance, for example, we have a patient that is in home hospice and the family want to get away for 5 days. They just want to get away, the caregiver, to take some time
Mhm.
off. Well, they can contact us and we will actually find a space for their loved one in one of our facilities. And they will stay there for 5 days. And just like they would stay there until the family comes back to town, and then they'll come back and we'll transport them back home.
So you could also call that "give me a break," right?
Yes.
A lot of
Caregiving
people
is
need that.
hard.
It is. Yeah, yeah. And I'm not even shouldn't even be complaining because what we're doing for mom and dad's nowhere near the level of what some people are
Oh,
having to
that's a blessing.
deal with. So I guess I
Hmm.
need to watch out. So like Kim Poor, she's been on the show, and being a doula, end of life doula. So you guys are. Do you take it that far to the end of life?
Whatever the patient wants, the family, we always tell the family upon coming on board with us, they
Hmm.
are driving the train. Whatever they request, we will, if they request a doula, we will bring one on board.
Okay. Do y'all suggest that to them, or let them know that's available? Because some people may not know about them.
Well, with the doulas, we do, because out of trade, our volunteer coordinator, she's her background is doula. She's a doula.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, here's the big question. Will the person be in charge of the decisions that are made?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
We, like I told, for example, today, if they want to continue, if they see anything while their loved one is on hospice, if they basically, we're never going to undermine the patient's family. They're going to always be making the decisions. We're going to always have a conversation with them. um, they will always be involved in every healthcare decision regarding their loved one.
mm,
Hmm.
okay. Do you ever have suggestions that are made and they refuse it?
We have, and
Yeah.
we have to respect their wishes. I mean, if they're, we can't force anything on anyone.
Yeah.
Um, but what we would strongly suggest is that we will talk to the family and just tell them what we suggest, and if they have to have a conversation with our medical director, we will bring him involved in it. But
Okay.
if they decide, it's up to the family. If they decide to get off hospice services,
Mm.
they can leave at any time. But what we do is, and what's so good about it, they can come back at no obligation whenever
Okay.
they get
Okay.
ready. Hmm.
All right. So it's not a contract or whatever.
It's
It's
no
just
contract.
as
Mm-mm.
needed.
No
Okay.
contract, no DNR is required or any of that. And
Okay.
that's what's so good about it. Yes.
Where do you recommend hospice care be received at?
Well, you can actually receive it if you have the resources to do it in home. That is perfect. If you want to come to one of the facilities, that's also good. We have families that choose to bring their loved ones and get them into one of our long-term care facilities,
Hmm.
and they have the option. They come in, they tour the facility, and we'll get them in, or you could do it at home. Either way, we'll do in home or in one of our facilities.
Okay. Is any
But for
special?
babies are always at home because
But
we take infants.
let me take this question off. And when you just said that,
Mm-hmm.
because Kim had shared the same thing when I was talking with her. I have it in my mind, old people,
No,
and that's not the case, especially end of life. Like I don't know why my brain goes there.
we have
It's like you just attach that word hospice to old or end of
it's
life to
it's
old. It's like
all
it's
yeah,
all
and
over
you
the place.
yeah, but we take infants, and we're one of the places,
Jeez.
one of the few places it's hard to get people to take on board pediatrics, the babies, because they don't have the necessary nurses, the training, the people that are trained to handle. But we take
Hmm.
infants. I just went to the hospital last week, newborn. So we take
So
infants.
so
Mhm.
give me an example of hospice for a child or a baby or a newborn.
Okay,
Like what?
for the baby, say for instance, baby was born with some kind of defect and doesn't have too much time to be here. Well, the hospital would go ahead and contact us. We go up to the hospital, talk to the parents, have the nurses and the doctor sitting in. We'll talk with all of them about our hospice services. And from there, if they decide to come on board, then when baby is discharged home, we have to know exactly when the date the baby is going to be discharged so that we can get all the
Okay.
equipment. Say for instance, we get the baby bed, the special bed for the baby. If there's breathing, portable breathing to breathing pumps, we have to get that, and everything that the baby need. We're going to make sure it's there at the house,
Okay.
so when the baby gets there, we get the transportation because the baby is sick, so it has to be transported in, by ambulance, or has to be in a special bed to get there.
Right.
So we'll make sure
Okay.
that it gets to the destination with the parents.
Okay. Is hospice, is it a combination of uh, private pay? Is it insurance? Is it Medicaid? Is it all three options or
It's all three options, and
okay?
and with
And that's part of the assessment, right? When you meet with a family, you try to
yes.
see what they qualify for, what they have, what they don't have, and then guide them
Mhm.
through the steps of seeing what they can get if they don't have the private pay money.
And if we have never, and what's so unique about a Fin is, I don't know what other hospices, but we will not turn anybody down if they don't have insurance. We're going to
Okay.
make a way. We're going to, because we're nonprofit, faith
Okay.
based.
All right. Gotcha. All
Hmm.
right. That's a good point.
Hmm.
Well, I know you touched on with the babies, but in general, is there any special equipment needed overall? Is that just obviously case by case?
It's case by case, but what we do, if it's just the basic equipment, wheelchairs and all of that stuff, even for the adults, um, jerry chairs, beds. We do just a net. We will furnish and supply all of the equipment, and even if it's special equipment for our babies, we're going to make sure we get that equipment as well, and for
Okay.
anyone else who needs it as an adult.
Right.
It's a case by case. Hmm.
Okay. Do you does do you guys provide any extra services?
We do the volunteer services. We have a volunteer coordinator who happens to be a doula by profession. So
Hmm.
she's a coordinator, and she has other volunteers, and that service is available. She goes out if the patient needs to get away from the house, of the patient's family need to do some errands or need her to do errands. She does that. She'll sit with the patient, and then we have our pastoral services.
Mm.
um, Once the patient has transitioned, we will stick with the family for up to 13 months. We're going to make sure,
Oh
yes,
wow.
we will reach out and make
Oh
sure,
geez.
yes, and we will basically get them with, if they're requesting bereavement, you know
Okay. Help
um
them get through more and
yes, because
process
it's
all
very
the
hard.
yeah.
And then we have a social worker who is full of resources. If they have any questions during the time while they're in our hospice services, we're here to help them as well with our social worker. So it's a lot of different, you know um people that are here, our chaplains, our spiritual health, well, spiritual services, or just if they're not spiritual, he still he if they request to see him, he will go out. So we're not
Right.
going to deny anyone. Mm-mm.
Well, here comes the a nitty gritty question. All right. So obviously, you're a woman of faith, and at the end of the day, we're all human,
Hmm.
and you are on the front lines dealing with some very challenging issues. And
Hmm.
you and I were talking before the show,
Hmm.
sharing stories about just some of the things that are experienced out here. Kind of makes you look in the mirror and go, "Ooh, I guess I need to count my blessings and all." So I always like to ask people like yourself in the profession that you're doing is how do you take care of you? How do you keep your mind strong? And I know we have our faith, but
Hmm.
even sometimes that
Yeah.
is seems unattainable, even though it's there. God's
Yeah.
always there for us. But um, what do you do to take care of yourself?
With me, I try to get, well, the thing I really like, self care for me is going to the spa
Mm.
and shopping. And you always get you. I have a close friend. Her name is Charlene, and I can talk to her about anything.
Mm.
But
Okay.
most of all, I have my spiritual, the people at my church, my pastor. My pastor is very open. He is very approachable. And
Hmm.
if there's something that I have a question about, I just want to ask a question. Basically, he's always available. But you got to take care of yourself. You can't, even though I'm with people all day, every day, and I'm in the presence of people that are. I've walked the shoes of most of them because I've lost my
Hmm.
both parents and a husband and a brother
Oh, wow.
and a niece at 1 years old and of cancer, and my heart truly goes out to all of them.
Wow.
But there's got to be a point where when you get home, I pray for them, and but I can't try to separate home and work.
Yeah.
When I'm home, it's home. And I get up every morning and I meditate. I'm up at
Mm.
3:30 every morning. Been doing it
Oh
since
my
my son
goodness.
was
Hang on now. Wait.
5 years. My son was 5 years old when I decided I can't do this without God. I was trying to do
True.
everything. And he's 33 and I've been doing it ever since. And I don't
So
stop.
you make a point to get up early enough to spend time with God.
3:30 and I do it for an hour every morning. And
Wow.
this is my war room right here.
Wow. That is so awesome. That is really is
I'll show you
encouraging
something.
to
Here's my
hear.
books here. Everything is here on this table in my dining room.
That
I love this
that is
place. This is my
that
special
is
place.
has good energy, right?
Yes, very good
Yeah.
energy.
So no demons or evil spirits can penetrate that room if you
Oh,
got it all prayed up.
shoot. You got to keep them at, they got to stay out there.
That is awesome. Well,
Yeah.
what I'm learning a lot just by this conversation because I
Mhm.
had like hospice was always the as that's it.
I
So
know. Me too.
people actually can get better after hospice and live
People,
on, right?
and I tell people every day, I don't try to give anybody no false hope, but I've seen, my pastor just said, Lisa I seen three people walk out of here last year,
Mm,
got off the services, got better.
wow.
So it's not always the end. We never know what the plan is, what God's plan is. Either he can take us away from the pain or take the pain away from us. So
Yeah.
it's like either or. And but I always tell these families, you still have your family member here, they're breathing. Every
Yeah.
moment counts. So live your best life. And
Mm.
I live my life like it's my last day on earth.
You almost have to, don't you?
You have to these days. Nothing's promised.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I get in a habit. I got to be honest. I get in a habit of thinking it's going to be forever. Like not, and I don't want to be here a lot of times. I don't mean it like I just you get so overwhelmed with stuff that you just
Yeah,
think, is this ever going to end?
yeah.
But And Mark Shakiro pops in. He says, "Tell you hello."
Tell them I said hello.
Some wonderful people I've met,
We have,
and
yes, I
it's
love
such.
this
I
group.
tell you, it's such a awesome group of people. It really is.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
um, but anyway, do you have? I know you have a bunch of stories, but can you recall
Mm-hmm.
um one of your stories that it was hard to unload off your
Mm-hmm.
mind?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Um,
can you share a recent one that was just really
mm-hmm.
kind of shakes you and makes you really have to
Mm-hmm.
meditate extra little bit of time?
Yeah. Just back in, well, I had a similar one Friday where a family out in Fayetteville, I went to their house. Very nice family. You know how you go into the doctors and you just for a checkup, and
Oh,
doctor told you ain't nothing else they can do. Go home and prepare.
mm,
And when they were telling me their story, I sat there at their island in the kitchen with them, and the husband, so much he reminded me of my husband
wow.
when we received a diagnosis of stage 4 colon cancer. And that particular day when the doctor came in that room and told us, um only thing I honestly, only thing I could see is I heard cancer, but everything else was like a blur. Her
Mm,
mouth was moving, but I couldn't understand what. And
yeah.
so, and when I was talking to them, it was like I was reliving my story on Friday, because I sat there and the wife, I could see the look on her
Mm.
face and I could
And
feel, and I
you
knew
knew it.
exactly. And
Yeah.
the husband kept making a joke out of it. He said, I can eat whatever I want. I'm gonna die anyways.
Mm,
And I have a big tumor and da da da. And he everything he said, but I could see that he was fighting back tears. I'm going
yeah.
to I could feel it because I saw that my husband's face on him.
Wow.
And it was like I was reliving my story, but I could see the sadness of that wife. And these people were in their 80s. We were just he
Wow.
was 42 years old. So just imagine that they've been together all this time, all their children are grown. And this is what they have to. And you know what I told? And he asked me a question, and he said, how did you do it? And I said, I I just took one day at a time. And I looked at his wife and I said, you all take one day at a time, but live your life. Go on a vacation. I said, we went on a vacation. I asked my husband, name one thing you want to do before you leave here. He said, I want to go to the beach. I made it happen. I was in debt after he passed away, but
Mm.
I was able to pay it off. But we went to that beach.
Yeah.
And it was like a serenity when he got to the beach. There's a picture I have. He's in the water and he's looking up to God with his hands raised up to the sky. And that's I
Wow.
was sitting on the sand back, and I was looking and I said, okay, he's at peace.
Mm.
And I told them, just take one day at a time. I understand. I can't tell them I know how they feel. And it's a feeling.
What was your
You know,
husband's name?
Daryl.
Daryl.
Daryl Bernard Cunningham.
How long was you and Daryl married?
19 years.
Wow.
And just
And
imagine they were celebrating that Saturday. Last Saturday would have been their, I think she told me 50 something years. So they are just really, there was a lovable couple. I tell you, I stayed there 3 hours in their house. I didn't realize it was almost getting dark. I had to get back up here to Atlanta. And they were so warm and welcoming, but that touched my heart. I came home. With that next morning, Saturday morning, I got on my knees. I prayed for them. I said, God, this work that I do, it's like everyone I encounter, it's a piece of my life that I have
Mm,
experienced in my life.
yeah.
Everyone that I have sat by the bedside of, even the infants, it's something about the families that God has put me there, and it's a piece of my life that
Yeah.
I've lived that part of their life.
When did your husband pass?
He did that December 9th, 2009.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my sister lost her husband about 4 years ago,
Oh, wow.
and he went quick, and he was I think Richard was in his late late 50s, early 60s,
Wow.
and he went quick. You know, it's because he had his lungs were damaged,
Mhm.
and it's where your lungs get hard,
Yes.
and he was kind of misdiagnosed. And I remember me and my wife, we went to the hospital,
Mhm.
and we thought he was getting better. And we left and got home, and time we got home,
Yeah.
he just Lord took him. But I tell you, I really appreciate you sharing that,
Mhm.
because I've always I've always said that if you ever need to go to any kind of counseling or
Mhm.
anything, you want the person to have experienced what they're counseling you on,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, even if someone goes to a therapist, I don't want it to be book knowledge. I want it to be lived,
To live.
because
Yes.
you're able to relate in a
Mhm.
way that no one else can relate, because you've been there. I don't know what it's like to lose a spouse.
Mhm.
And and honestly, it makes me shiver to think about it, just being transparent about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but to have someone like you there, if that was to have happened, would be such a more of an encouraging and comforting place, and especially with you, having your faith behind all that.
Oh, yeah, but it
You
has
know,
it has, not always been like that, you know?
yeah,
Um, but it's just a closer walk with God as you read and you get in your word every day and you understand it more and more, because at one time, and I still have to kinda think about it. There are days when I like, everybody, all my siblings have their spouses, except for my sister-in-law. We lost my brother, and now she says she understand what I was going through before that. But she calls me, and I try to encourage her, and I say, "You just stick with God because He knows what's best."
yeah,
Even though we want to be selfish and keep them here, but we don't know. We just got, I just wouldn't, I refuse to let my husband continue to suffer. For 2 years, he
mm,
battled it, and he was at stage 4. And God let him
wow.
live for long enough to see our son graduate high school.
Oh,
And
that was
he said,
special.
"I'm ready to go home." That day at that graduation, he started crying. He said, and my sister, she's the only one that can get him to calm down. And he said, "I'm just ready to go home now." And I said, and I thought he was saying home, home. But then I
Right.
realized he was
What he
saying he
meant.
saw what he had to see. My son got through high school, and now he's ready to go home. And a couple of months after that, he went on home.
Isn't it interesting how we all act like we belong here, and
Exactly.
we don't. That's coming from obviously a statement of faith. So the people
Yeah.
that don't have their faith, I understand that. I
Hmm.
get it. I've been through my falling away, and kind of on the path of the
Yeah.
prodigal son, of because it gets very complicated and
Yeah.
very confusing. But
Yeah.
you know, the topic of what we're discussing now is part of what you do. It's part
Yes.
of hospice. It's part of being in the ministry side, because whether people have faith or not,
Hmm.
God is love
All day.
all day.
All
So
day.
what's wrong with sharing love? Because
Yeah.
people need that, especially when they're going through difficult, challenging times.
Yes.
But
And it's not just, it's all people,
yeah,
everybody. And I don't look at, when I talk to people, that like today, that man I met in the office, I just wanted to grab him and give him a hug. He was crying, and it really
mm,
made me sad because he felt like he's all alone.
yeah,
Family move away, even siblings. When you got a sick parent, most of them run this way and leave that
mm,
one person. And I told him, I understand family dynamics. It
yeah,
happens to all of us, but he
everybody,
just do the best that he can do, and God will continue to bless him
yeah,
and give him strength when he feels like he don't have it.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, Aletha, is there anything else you want to add, share, something we haven't talked,
um
anything been laid on your mind or your heart you want to?
I just, when it comes to that time, I just ask people, a lot of people don't know about hospice, and
Mm,
if they just want more information or more, just give me a call. I'm always willing to answer questions. I'm always willing to do lunch and learns. I can go out, and
mm,
that's what we're out here for, to educate. Because I was like you, I
yeah.
didn't know. I thought the H word means okay. This is it.
It's like
I'm
almost
like,
like
okay.
it's almost like the inviting the
Nobody
Grim
wants to
Reaper
talk
in.
about the
Yeah,
H word,
yeah.
but it's more of a, we're here to manage the pain, not over medicate people. We are here for compassion care, just giving them that love and the compassion and the dignity that they need, and the family members, because it's hard to,
I just
and
had a
we're just
question
here.
to pop in my head. Are
Mhm.
you are you are you guys able to administer medications? Do you
Yes,
have
we do.
okay,
Yes,
okay, all
yes.
right.
So
We're
that's
good.
why. So we don't. A lot of people think we are here to just give them a bunch of morphine and make them go away. No, that's by law. We can't do that. We're here to manage. It's comfort care,
Okay.
managing the pain. So it's no overdose. We will be in jail,
It's
all of us.
yeah, it's like, "Hey, can you up that dose for me a little bit?
Yeah, we can't. We're like,
I'm
no, no,
still
no. But
I'm still
yes.
I'm still hurting." But I greatly appreciate you taking the time to
And
come
I
on
thank
here,
you
and
for
you
welcoming me.
and
Yeah,
I just wanna personally tell you, you got a sweet soul about you. I enjoy every time I see you.
me too. You
You just got
too.
good energy about you, and hopefully, we'll be seeing each other in the morning.
Yes, we will. If
So
it's by God's will, well, hey, we wake up in the morning, we be ready to
yes.
go.
All right. So if I'm not there, you know that I got
When you
called
don't went
home,
on,
right?
you don't slept on into paradise, and I'll see you when I get
I'll
there.
I'll be talking with your husband
Yes,
and my sister. So, but
yes.
listen, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I wish you a blessed rest of your day. And to the rest of the viewers out there, we'll check you on the next show. So we're out.